And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Cricket News Daily. Not daily, sort of bi-weekly, really. 2-3 times a week, we do wrap up all the latest cricketing action here on Forever Sport. As part of our new offering, we will be doing a lot more of sort of different sports, including different sports from around the globe, including cricket as well as football. We'll be live at 3 o'clock for our football news show. Then tonight we'll be live for our rugby fan forum as well as our Formula One preview show, which will be happening immediately afterwards at 8:30 South African Standard Time. Ahead of us, jam-packed weekend of Formula One, of rugby, and probably not of Test cricket, which looks like a couple of hours to go, but looks like the first Test between South Africa and West Indies could actually very well wrap up today. And that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. And obviously, I think at this rate, if it does wrap up today, it means that South Africa probably won. I'd be very surprised if West Indies go and chase a further sort of 220 runs by the close of play. But they are currently 4 down, which means that the Proteas are very much making inroads into that total. I'm just going to grab a bit of water before we get going. And it's been a very strange sort of test match. And we're going to look at obviously more than just the Proteas and stuff like that. We will talk about England versus Bangladesh currently happening. We'll talk about what's happening over in India, between Australia and India, as well as have a little look at the 4-day results that we saw the last week, although we sort of covered that quite a lot in the daily show, or the daily wrap last night with Stephen Kirker. So if you guys haven't checked that out, that's happening every day at 6 o'clock, which is a really cool, fun show. It's a half an hour sort of wrap up of all what's happening around the world in a sporting sense. So if you haven't managed to watch anything throughout the day, then all you have to do is jump on at 6 o'clock, and for half an hour we'll tell you exactly what you have missed throughout the day. But coming up in the show, I want to talk about the Proteas batting issues. I want to talk about sort of the decisions made by Shukri Conrad in this test match, and sort of what's gone well, what's gone badly, how we kind of need to rectify certain things, what we need to rectify, and how we can do that. And just sort of talk a little bit about what's going wrong and what's going right with the Proteas. And unfortunately, very sort of consistent problems continuing to sort of plague the side. But the good news is that certain really good sort of facets are continuing to really sort of boost the side. So, the game is currently going on at the moment. So, it's difficult to really critique a team who probably currently right now in the driving seat. They are 6 wickets away from a victory, whilst the West Indies are 220 runs. So you do feel that South Africa very much so far at the moment in the driving seat, 2 new batsmen in, but this is currently how things look over in Centurion. As I said, West Indies require 220 runs, a further 220 runs to try and get this result, whilst the South Africans, as I said, need 6 wickets. And this is thanks to a very impressive early bowling spell from Khizer Rabada, actually, who sort of got the early breakthrough before Mark Jansen went bang, bang as well. So if we look at sort of the scorecard at the moment, this is what the current innings is looking like. Craig Brathwaite dismissed for a duck by Rabada early on in his innings, as before Rabada also got Raymond Rifle with fantastic caution bowl there. And then we've seen Nokia catch Tangerine Chanapur, bowled by Jansen, and then Austin Chase was bowled first up by Marco Jansen as well. And so at the moment you're just looking at it and you're thinking, cool, everything is very good. But we have seen 2 Proteas batting collapses so far this match, and you do have to start wondering, don't you? And let's look at the first innings. Now, the first innings, and the important thing is the fall of wickets. Dean Al got 71, Adam Markham 115 at the top of the order. The first wicket fell at 141 runs, and now that's the perfect opening stand. You cannot ask for more from your openers than to have 141 runs on the board before the first wicket. Tony Dawsey came on and played a very good 28-run knock before running himself out, which is really quite sloppy, but 221 for 2, you're thinking, perfect. But then we come to the issues, isn't it? Temu Buma, who actually ends up getting a pair this test match, Keegan Peterson 14, Hunter Klaasen 20, Sinner Mutsami 3, Mark Yats with a handy 23 at the end there, and then some nice contributions at the back end, 17 and 18 from Anut Nokia and Gerald Kutsia, which were nice sort of handy contributions. But to be 221 for 2 and then 342 all out is pretty poor at the end of the day, and especially go from 221 for 2 to 290 for 7 to lose 5 wickets in the space of 60 or 70 odd runs. These are your premier batsmen supposed to be there. It's frustrating. Now, if you look at the West Indies batting scorecard, they looked like they were going pretty well as well. They were Craig Brathwaite got dismissed quite early, but a very nice sort of partnership there. 122 for 3, I think, not too bad. and 169 for 4, but then they collapsed very, very quickly thanks to a pretty impressive spell from Nokia, it must be said. But this is sort of the more innings I want to talk about. South Africa were bowled out today for 116. That's not good enough at the end of the day. And I think, we're looking at this pitch and there's no doubt that there is something in it for the bowlers. That the bowlers are very much extracting some really good movements, some very good, in a sort of bit of invariable bounce. And there are certain areas which if you hit them are proving to be very difficult to play. 30 runs of the 116 came from Khisrabada and Giriel Kutsia. They were two of only 3 people to get double figures. Aidan Malcolm getting 47 or 58. It's like he played on a different pitch. And it's unacceptable to be seeing a top 5 of 1, 0, 0, 7, 5, 4, 6. These are all players who can bat. From here, they are all players who are being picked as batsmen. So it's actually not good enough at the end of the day. And the question is, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? Because at the end of the day, we know that look, Tony Dawes got a very good ball and he played very well in the first innings. Taylor Will came off the back of a pair. Now, Keegan Pearson coming back into the side was left out due to injury and stuff like that, and he's combined for scores of 7 and 20. 7 and 14. Heino Klassen 22 and 5. Senator Mutsami 3 and 4. So immediately, for example, you sit there going, well, Senator Mutsami, was that a good decision? And at the end of the day, I don't think he should have been there. And it's quite clear for me he shouldn't have been there. If you look at his domestic form, for example, it's not been particularly good. He's not been scoring runs domestically, and he's picked as a 7th batsman. Shooky Conrad has come out and said that he likes to have 7 batsmen. So he wasn't picked as an all-rounder. Yes, he does bowl some spin, and I think he bowled about 8 overs in the first innings. Bowled two maidens. Very good economy. Took up no wickets, but sort of tied up an end. But he's not a frontline spinner. In the same sort of breath, a Keshav Maharaj is a frontline spinner. And so you sit there going, well, what role is Senator Mutsami playing in this side? Because if you look at his recent form, it's not very good. And you sort of sit there going, how can somebody like Ryan Rickleton not be playing in the side when you've got a batting all-rounder who's not added any runs, and is not doing much of the ball. Now it sounds harsh because he scored a 49 when he went over to India, but he's now a player, had 6 innings. He scored 105 runs across that, which 49 came in single innings. He's averaging at 26.25. But on form domestically, it's just he's not been one of the top players. Not even I think one of the top 10 run scorers of the season. And you sort of sit there going, what kind of message is this sending when one of the the top run scorers, you like of Ryan Rickleton's, Kyle Verreynne, for example, you got dropped, and you got Senator Mutsami, and I just think that is the biggest sort of selection mistake. The other sort of selection question mark will have been Keegan Pearson, given the fact that he was out for a while and hasn't played necessarily a lot of red ball cricket, and it's kind of showing now, isn't it? But he was man of the series the last time he was fit against India. So it's difficult to leave him out. And I personally think a very easy sort of switch would have been Ryan Rickleton in for Senator Mutsami. If you need some overs of spin, you can ask Aidan Markham to type it in. That his bowling is really coming leaps and bounds. I think he could very much have done the 8 overs that Senator Mutsami had bowled. And I think you could have had Ryan Rickleton number 7. And I personally think that adds so much more balance to the side and would solve a lot of the issues. At the end of the day, you're struggling with runs. You're struggling with people who are going big. Why not go and pick someone who, first of all, does go big, has capacity to go big, and is in very good nick? Ryan Rickleton, I think at the moment, has got a conversion rate. I think he's got as many 50s as he does hundreds. And he's gotten, I think, two or three hundreds this season in the last sort of 18 months. I think he's got about 9, first-class hundreds. And we've got another wicket there. Giriel Kutsia getting in on the action as he dismisses Kyle Mayer. So, as I said, the Proteas could be romping to a 200-run victory, or 180-run victory. If they were to really run through them in the last. But they're probably looking at winning by over 100 runs at this rate, which is a bit of a thrashing, and it's a good result for the Proteas. But the batting woes are a problem, and it's not a talent problem. I do think that Ryan Rickleton should be playing, but again, it's not a talent problem. The players are in there can bat. So how do we stop this? How do we solve this batting crisis? And it doesn't help that. We've got a batting consultant and Neil McKenzie's just in for the series, and then we're going to have a new batting coach. But I think what's going to be quite interesting is I think Shooky Conrad and Rob Walters, they both spoke about I think it's a performance coach, sort of sports psychologist, mental coach type thing. And I think that for me, if we can get that right, it's going to solve a lot of the batting issues. Because it has to be mental, or at least a certain amount of it has to be mental. The fact that we've got all these players, we've got all the talent in the world. They've got the talent to score big runs, but they're just not. And we consistently now if we lose quick wickets, we're losing them very quickly, and teams can run through us very easily. And that needs to change. We know we need to be in a situation where if you lose 2 wickets early on, the batsmen coming in have the mentality and have the mental fortitude to be able to get themselves in, be able to sort of withstand a bit of pressure and sort of reset ourselves and get ourselves back aligned. And that's what we just can't do at the moment. If as soon as we lose quick wickets, we tumble. 221 for 2 to 342 all out. To lose 8 wickets for 120 runs after scoring 220 runs for 2 wickets is poor. And that, for me, again, has to be a lot of it as a mental thing. And if we can't fix that, and the sad thing is, we discussed how do we fix it in the test team. We're not playing enough tests for it to really matter. 12 tests in the next 3 years. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. But we do need to find out why we cannot kick on, why we can't sort of stick in, why we are so vulnerable as a batting lineup. And for me, I think it has to be a sort of a big mental approach. I think if you can solve that, then I think we'll solve a lot of our issues. And again, I think a lot of it is mental. But speaking of very short test matches, day 2, India versus Australia. India bowled out for 109 and 163. And that is dreadful, isn't it? I mean, personally, I'm all for making pitches that favour bowlers and using your home conditions. But you've got to see demerit points there. We have seen 30 wickets fall. 30 wickets fall inside 2 days. That's unbelievable. That's 15 wickets a day. We've seen India skittle for 109, Australia then bowled for 197, India then bowled for 163. Nathan Lyon took 8 wickets. 8. I mean, this scorecard is an absolute joke if you look at some of the bowling stats. You look at this first innings here. From India, and they bowled for 109. And Matthew Kennerman is his first Test series ever. He's taking 5 wickets. Nathan Lyon with 3, Todd Murphy with 1, Mitchell Starc, Cameron Green. The only 2 seamers even sort of trundling down and getting involved at the top of the order there. I mean, Cameron Green opening the bowling is bizarre. Then in the second innings, Nathan Lyon 8. I mean, the pitches as I said, I'm all for creating an advantage. And we look at the Australia. India opened the bowling with Ashwin and Jadeja. Then went to Axar Patel, Umesh Yadav, and Mohammad Siraj. Come on, guys. There's spin-friendly pitches, and then there's what's happening indoor right now. And for me, this is a terrible, terrible advert for Test cricket. It really, really is. Have we got another wicket? I'm seeing. No, it was the earlier wicket. But yeah, I think that's really poor, to be honest, and I think it's quite worrying. We've had some really good Test matches in the past couple. We had a tremendous Test match this week between New Zealand and England, with England declaring as well as forcing a follow-on and still losing by 1 run, thanks to a brilliant bowling performance by New Zealand. And that's been really good for Test cricket, but Tests like this, for me, is an absolute joke. This could be over in the morning session tomorrow. 2 days in one session. That's 7 sessions out of a possible 15. That's less than half the match. It's not a good advert for Test cricket, and I think India have been slowly sort of moving towards this point with their Test pitch preparation, and I think we need to see demerit points. We need to see something happen, because this is an absolute joke. Test cricket is not going to survive if you continue to produce pitches where 197 and 70, where 260 runs across the entire match is the winning score. It's ludicrous. It is absolutely ludicrous. We bowled out for 109, 163, 30 wickets in 2 days is everything Test cricket should not be, and that's what's happening in India right now. So that's a bit frustrating, isn't it? In terms of some other sort of news, we have got we've just had another round of 4-day series cricket happening in and around the country. We spoke a little about last on the Daily Wrap, because it was a tremendous game by Bjorn Fontaine last night with where he scored. Well, it wrapped up yesterday in the evening. where he scored a century, a 50, and took 9 wickets across the match. I mean, how is that for an absolutely brilliant all-round game? So, and again, if I was him, I'd be looking and sitting there saying, right, well, if Sinner and Mutasami can get into that side as, a fifth batsman or seventh batsman and can bowl a bit, well, I reckon I could become a frontline spinner that can score runs as well. I've just scored a 50 and 100 in the game at the Wonders, where the next test is, ironically. So why can't I, back myself to do it? But yeah, so those are sort of the two main sort of games going on at the moment. And we'll sort of keep on. I mean, as I said, we'll keep an eye on that, but it could very quickly finish in the next couple of days. Tomorrow, Bangladesh versus England does begin. It is tomorrow's the second ODI, and then the third ODI on Monday before a 3 T20 series. So if we look at it, England won by 3 wickets. On the 1st of March. That was sort of was yesterday. Was yesterday the first one? Yeah, yesterday. So England beating Bangladesh by 3 wickets. Wasn't comfortable. But in the end, getting over the line, David Malan, the man who sort of came good for England with an unbeaten 114 of 145. The difference. Not too many other contributions in around that England side. Will Jacks down the order of 26. Moeen with 14. Adil Rashid with a 17 towards the end for the Bangladeshis. Najmul Hussain Shantu with a 58. That was the main contribution from them. If we look at some of the wickets for England, for example, very well spread out. Chris Wokes with 1, Jofra Archer with 2, Mark Wood 2, Moeen Ali 2, Adil Rashid 2, Will Jacks with a solitary wicket. If we look at Bangladesh, Tajul Islam with 3, Shakib Al Hassan, Taskin Ahmed with 1 apiece, and 2 for Mehdi Hassan Miraz. Again, that second ODI getting underway tomorrow. And that's sort of pretty much it, really, in terms of the cricketing world. There are some very important, there's a very important trial happening over in England. We saw the whole social justice hearings that happened in South African cricket. And a very similar things happening over in the UK and in amongst that Yorkshire racism scandal. The one which has actually seen Gary Banners pretty much flee England, go back to Zimbabwe. He's actually playing for Zimbabwe. He scored a test century the other day. But Michael Vaughan implicated, and it's the entire sort of racism scandal that was against Azim Rafiq back in the county circuit within Yorkshire. And I think that, it's going to be interesting to sort of see what happens with that those sort of hearings, because it could be a bit of a watershed moment with there's actually accusations that the entire cricketing system is structurally racist. And that is what they're sort of trying to really sort of uncover. But it's becoming a bit of a farce in the fact that most people aren't actually testifying, the people that have been sort of accused. It's kind of just Michael Vaughan who's actually pitching up and speaking. Everybody else is pulled out of the hearings, which means we're going to get a very skew sort of understanding of exactly what went down. And yeah, I'll be interested to sort of see exactly what sort of happens there. But in terms of now we're going to see some Jermaine Blackwood playing a bit of shots here against South Africa. Yeah, again, the approach is in a pretty dominant position. Should go on to win this match. Many questions for me, probably more questions than answers from a batting perspective. A couple of big decisions maybe to be made in the next test. I think what is quite firmly decided though is that this bowling attack is going very well. I think for all that, everybody was quite surprised, and myself included, with Gerald Coetzee. I think he was picked more on a gut feel than stats, which is fine. And he's done well. He picked up 2 wickets in the first innings. He's picked up a wicket in the second innings now. He scored some handy runs in both innings, actually. He scored as I said, he scored that 17 and then a 22, I think it was, or 20 on the dot in the second innings. And he's picked up 3 wickets across the match. So he'll be quite chuffed with how things have gone. There's still plenty of wickets to take for him as well. So might be able to add on to it. While Marco Jansen's taken 3 wickets across the match, I don't look here with that fifer. Roberto with 2 in the first innings, 2 in the second innings, has looked very close to his best. So from a bowling perspective, as always, things going very well. From a batting perspective, yes, still many questions that need answering. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you guys at 3 o'clock for some football news. Until then, there's a lot of stuff going up on the channel. There's a video on how to watch the Bahrain Grand Prix. We will have our Formula 1 preview tonight at 8:30, Rugby Fan Forum, 7:30, as well as our daily wrap at 6 o'clock. So look, there's just so much action happening on the channel. Make sure you subscribe to it if you are new, and we will see you guys all very, very soon.